Hey everyone, it's Ivan, Comparative.com, out here for another gear review, and today, talking lasers. This little guy right here, which is the SureFire XVL2-IRC. We'll go ahead and start with the what. What is this thing? Well, it is a light and laser that is made for either a pistol or carbine and operates in both spectrums. So we have a LED emitter for both visible as well as IR spectrum, and we have a slaved visible green laser as well as a infrared laser. All of the things in one little package. As far as kind of stats go on this guy, measures about 3 inches, weighs 5 ounces, and it is IPX8 rating for waterproof. Basically 66 feet for up to 2 hours. As far as the unit itself, back here is your switch. You can either rock it and have it stay on, or you can go ahead and press for momentary. Right here gives a list of all the different settings, whether it's visible illuminator, visible laser, illuminator and laser, off, and then back through the others on the other side. IR illuminator, IR laser and illuminator. Runs off of one 1238 battery, and a really nice thing, if I can do it right here, you can basically undo the cap, pull that battery out to swap it, which is huge. If you've ever used like the X400 Vampire, something like that, basically have to remove the whole unit to swap batteries, and then of course go re-zero. When it comes to zeroing, right here, point of impact, down, up, you can adjust that. Granted, take into consideration this is on 12 o'clock versus 6 o'clock, and then if you of course set it over off to the side, but then right here you have your windage as well. This switch right here moves between all of your settings. You can rock it back and forth. All the way that direction is off, and all the way this way is also off. And then moving it towards you, you go into your visible setting. So white light, again, vis laser, and then one more, and we have both vis laser and white light. All the different settings right there. And lastly, that IR laser, it's putting out 0.7 milliwatts. Why is that important? Well, pretty much any civilian infrared laser is limited to 0.7 milliwatts. And this is the IRC versus the regular XVL2. What does that acronym mean? I have no idea, but I do know XVL2-IRC is their designator for the civilian one, which again has that limited laser at 0.7 milliwatts. So with all of that being said, how have I used this? I've actually used it quite a bit. I initially had it mounted on my little Honey Badger SD and was doing some housework with it, both some dry runs and eventually getting out to a live fire shoot house, doing a little bit of shooting out there with it as well. But thing did a great job on that nice compact package. And then I ended up actually putting it on this gun right here, this whole setup right here, and took it down, ran it in a 3-day night vision course at Thunder Ranch. All kinds of different, basically, yeah, different use cases, whether actually using this, working through a building, like room to room, or going out and shooting this at distance. And then also, of course, just like up drills at like 25 yards, stuff along those lines. And having put in a bunch of time with it, I definitely have some takeaways.
That was a cool shot.
Let me speak real quick to the visible side. This, again, 400 lumens. Is that enough? Comes down to what your paradigm is. Do you need to burn someone's retinas out? Or do you need to blind yourself coming into a room? Do you need to do helicopter vehicle interdiction? I don't know. I don't know what your thing is, but 400 lumens, like honestly, again, keep in mind, this is made to go on a pistol or a carbine. It actually does a pretty good job of usable light. Is it going to push past any type of photonic barrier? I don't know. Again, usable light, pretty wide throw, and yeah, here's what it looks like compared to some other lights. Right here, since we're not looking at this XVL2-IRC in a vacuum, we'll go ahead. This right here is 10 yards, IPSC target, XVL2-IRC. And right here is the SureFire X400 Vampire, XVL2-IRC. And we also have the VIR2 by Streamlight. Back to XVL2-IRC. And we'll step back. Right here, we're back at the 25-yard line. Again, we have our IPSC target illuminated with the XVL2-IRC. And switching over to the X400 Vampire by SureFire. And back to the XVL2-IRC. And over to the VIR2 by Streamlight. Finally, back, XVL2-IRC. Now back at 50 yards, there's that same IPSC illuminated by the XVL2-IRC. And right here, SureFire X400 Vampire. And Streamlight VIR2. And back to XVL2-IRC. Here we are at 100 yards, the XVL2-IRC. Probably kind of hard to see. There's a couple gongs out there. And right here, SureFire X400 Vampire. Again, 100 yards. And right here, Streamlight VIR2. Finally, back to SureFire XVL2-IRC once again. Quick aside, apologize for the lighting conditions. One, there's definitely a moon, but it's behind the mountain. And then on top of that, the range has basically security cameras everywhere with some IR lights, but we got what we got. Right here, I'm at 10 yards, IPSC silhouette, XVL2-IRC, both illuminator and laser. And switching over, SureFire X400 Vampire, illuminator and laser. And Streamlight VIR2, illuminator and laser. And back to XVL2-IRC. Here we are at the 25-yard line, IPSC target, XVL2-IRC by SureFire, illuminator and laser. And switching over to the X400 Vampire, also by SureFire. And lastly, VIR2 by Streamlight. Once again, the XVL2-IRC. Now back at 50 yards, IPSC target, XVL2-IRC, illuminator and laser. SureFire X400 Vampire. And Streamlight VIR2. And once again, back to XVL2-IRC. Here we are at 100 yards. There's a 12-inch gong and I believe a 6-inch gong next to it on the berm. Right here, XVL2-IRC, illuminator and laser. And the X400 Vampire, illuminator and laser. Finally, Streamlight VIR2, illuminator and laser. And back to the XVL2-IRC. Again, I don't know the answer. Depends on kind of your paradigm, how you intend to use this. The green visible laser, definitely visible. Under the right conditions, with a magnified optic, can usually see it out at 100 yards, but typically you can see it out to 50 yards, even in like direct sunlight. Does a really good job. When we get over to the IR side, the IR laser, it's amazing and basically just as good as pretty much any other civilian laser you're getting. Again, they're all limited to 0.7 milliwatts. As far as the IR illuminator, it actually does a really good job, that LED illuminator. Again, what are you trying to do with it? I will say, whether you're moving through a room or even in something open, pretty easy to own the space out to about 100 yards. Again, I don't know what you're trying to do though. Are you trying to push past like photonic barriers? Maybe you need some sort of diffused laser. I will say at that class, with this gun, with this setup, I think I was the only student to actually shoot and hit steel out at 500 yards. Granted, this illuminator did not do it. It was basically shooting silhouettes, 100, easy day, 200, still pretty easy with this illuminator. 300 definitely took a little bit of doing, but I could still do it with this illuminator. And then pushing past that at 400 and then eventually moving out to 500.
Thank you.
The illuminator wasn't enough. And honestly, even kind of the civilian mall wasn't really enough, but the mil-spec mall, it puts out a lot of energy. And using that mil-spec illuminator from the mall, I was able to reach this thing out to 400 and 500. 500, I was basically just chasing it up, trying to chase the other laser up because really hard to see out there, but eventually got my hit. The one other place and my son used it was actually hunting some feral pigs. We were down in Texas. My son had this gun set up. I was using my SR25 with a maul, and this definitely worked. Between the two of us, we brought down a big feral hog. I will say though, the illuminator on this, it just wasn't pushing out far enough. So I basically had that maul on high power, and that made it easier, one, for my son to see because he's using a pair of like Gen 2 PVS 14 green phos versus my dual white phos Gen 3 like high FOM. And so yeah, this was not illuminating enough at a distance to kind of help distinguish the target. So ended up using the maul. Again, this was probably 225, 250 yards, but both of us got our lasers on and broke our shots. What do I think this is best for? Honestly, probably small, compact ARs or sub guns, or you could put it on a pistol. It is made for a pistol. It's pretty big, and I'm sure someone makes a holster for it. You might be able to find Safari Land, I don't know, but it's kind of chunky for a pistol, in my opinion. I will say, I think this thing is incredible on most guns, probably for most applications. Again, what's your paradigm? Are you hunting things, whether it's like predator hunting, feral pigs, something like that, at distance? This illuminator, it might not be the best thing. Or for that matter, the white light might not be the best. If you're inside a structure, or you're just like, hey, I want to own from my back door to the street, like the end of my driveway, half a block down, whatever it may be, probably perfect. I mean, the big thing is you have everything in one little package. So rather than having maybe an IR laser and then an IR illuminator, because you have like just a laser. So now you have an IR illuminator, and now you have a white light also. You start clumping all this stuff onto your gun. Like, it gets really heavy and bulky versus something like this where you have everything right there. White light, green vis laser, IR illuminator, IR laser. All of the things, one small package. At the end of the day, it goes back to use case. At that 3-day night vision course, running the entire gamut from shooting anywhere from like 20 yards out to 500. I will say the wheels kind of fell off shooting out past 300 yards, but what's your use case? If you are going to predator hunt, there's probably better options out there. But if you're getting into night vision, or your use case is relatively close in with respect to using night vision, I think this is a great option. Really, really handy. Cost-wise, you're looking at around $1,300. Is that expensive? Yeah, well, frankly, everything in the night vision world is expensive. I will say, I would argue it's actually a really good deal though, because you're getting a vis laser, IR laser, vis illuminator, IR illuminator, all with one easy switch. That's huge, because if you have your IR laser, or maybe you have your IR laser and illuminator, and now you have your visible illuminator, you still have to figure out your switches for all of that stuff, which can be daunting. And once you stack all that stuff up, it's probably going to be over $1,300 between your IR laser, visible laser, IR illuminator, visible illuminator. That's a lot of stuff on the end of your gun. And this basically puts it in one nice little concise package. Pretty handy, I think, especially for sub guns. Yeah, really, really handy. But you can find this obviously through SureFire and other places out there too. And yeah, usually price point around $1,300. But overall, pretty solid option, especially if you're looking for something turnkey, easy to use switch, and yeah, getting into night vision. But if you appreciate my content and want to support it, greatly appreciate it. Whether it's liking and sharing videos or supporting me directly through Patreon. One, you'll end up with early access to most videos, as well as some exclusive videos. And if you have questions for me, happy to answer them. Not down in the comments section, but over on Patreon, we have an active Discord. Happy to answer all of your questions over there. And as always, thanks for joining us at kitbadger.com. Look forward to seeing you next time.